Welcome to X Global News. After satellite assistance, the appearance of Russian military equipment was detected in areas where 2,600 Russian military systems are located. The Ukrainian army had all the detected Russian equipment one-to-one with a large operation. Ukrainian Defense Intelligence has discovered 150 points where Russia gathers for defense and attack. With the help of a satellite, the information received by Ukrainian intelligence was so important that it changed the course of the war fund. Close aides of the Ukrainian government bought satellites with the money raised thanks to this satellite. Ukrainian intelligence officers constantly scanned the regions. The foundation is a Ukrainian charitable organization worth about $600 million. After the acquisition of the satellite database by a Ukrainian charitable organization, the authorities also announced that the satellite will now remain the property of Ukraine throughout its service life and orbit, while the Ukrainian army destroyed many Russian defense systems. Thanks to this satellite, the Ukrainian Air Force used it to attack the region. Recently, a Su-24 fighter of the Ukrainian Air Force made a major raid on the Eastern Front. Then the Ukrainian army launched a major attack on the transport infrastructure in the Kryvyi Rog area. On the southern front, this road, which is constantly used by the Russian army, was deciphered by satellite, now as a result of its movement to the Eastern Front. After the transfer of Russian soldiers was disrupted, clashes in the Bakhmut area on the Eastern Front intensified significantly. Many members of the Russian army Wagner's mercenary group launched a massive attack on Bakhmut. Ukrainian soldiers currently on suburban lines in the Bakhmut area were forced to leave the area. However, the Russian army suffered heavy losses. Local sources explained that the number of Russian soldiers in the Bakhmut region is constantly increasing, saying that Russian soldiers came to the region like a herd of locusts. Experts also said that the Russians had left Luhansk and were defending themselves on the Eastern Front. The Russian army has suffered heavy losses in Ukraine after the latest attacks. In the Army and Special Services, according to the figures announced by the Ukrainian General Staff, approximately 87,310 Russian soldiers died during the fighting. In addition to this statement, another statement by the authorities was quite unexpected. It says that the number of Russian soldiers wounded during the war is 300,000 since the beginning of the war. Russian soldiers have suffered heavy losses over the past week, while Russian soldiers have attached great importance to the defense of their region. The Ukrainian army launched a massive offensive in the south of the Don Basin, in which major clashes took place in the towns of Pavlitsko and Ugledar, where Russian soldiers were present. Russian soldiers are losing, although not as much as the Russian army, and both sides are trying to push each other back. Conditions in this area are very bad. The trenches dug by the war are in a terrible state because of whether the rain really turned the ground into mud, and the conditions are similar to the situation in the trenches on the Western Front during the First World War. It also turned out that Russia could not gather enough soldiers to capture the Donetsk region in eastern Ukraine. The British Ministry of Defense shared intelligence in a report on the course of the war. It says that since Russia and Ukraine have deployed significant forces to the area around the towns of Pavlovka, which are located in the Donetsk region, according to reports, this area has been the scene of intense fighting. This area is controlled by the Ukrainian military. If the Russian army can make progress in this region, it will be able to advance north of Donetsk. However, experts say that the Russian army cannot send enough soldiers to the region. The Institute of Military Studies said that the overall pace of military operations in Ukraine may increase in the coming weeks. In its latest assessment, the U.S. based think tank said operations have slowed in recent days due to worsening weather conditions. However, we expect the fighting to escalate in the next few weeks as temperatures drop and the ground is now freezing. Reports from critical frontline areas in Ukraine indicate that operations on both sides are expected to decrease across Ukraine next week. Mobility has started to increase for both sides. Probably the freezing of the ground also indicates that this will accelerate the pace of the war. At the moment, because of the dirt, Russian soldiers and Ukrainian soldiers cannot fully perform their tasks. In the regions, with the onset of winter, it is expected that the troops will again engage in fierce clashes, since Russia is currently unable to send enough soldiers to the Eastern Front. It is expected that the Ukrainian army will advance from a completely different direction. The representative of the President of Ukraine Zelensky said that the Russian army is preparing for new missile strikes on the energy infrastructure of Ukraine, pointing to the heaviest clashes. Zelensky said that the situation at the front is quite difficult, saying that Russia bombed critical energy infrastructures in Ukraine again last week. Zelensky said that effective efforts were made to solve energy problems in the country. As a result of the terrorist attacks in Russia, harsh voices are beginning to be heard against President Vladimir Putin, who until yesterday monopolistically controlled the army in Russia belongs to the state, but the Wagner Group founded by Yevgeny Prigozhin, the army of Chechen leader Ramzan Kadyrov, put an end to this monopoly in the war. Putin's power is weakening, and Russian President Putin and the leader of the Chechen Republic Ramzan Kadyrov met at his official residence in Novoogarivo near Moscow. After the meeting, the Kremlin shared a photo of the two leaders. Kadyrov stressed that Putin thanked the Chechens for their loyalty and patriotism at the meeting. In the Kremlin, Vladimir Putin held an important meeting with the head of the Chechen Republic Ramzan Kadyrov and got acquainted in detail with the latest situation in the region. It was also announced by the Russian authorities that issues related to the work of Chechen troops were discussed separately. We also assume that the most important issue of this meeting is the Bakhmut region. To date, almost 500 vessels have been delivered in accordance with the Grain Corridor Agreement. In his speech at the International Forum on Grain from Ukraine, held in the capital Kyiv, Zelensky also appreciated the ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine. Zelensky mentioned that with the arrival of winter they can make significant progress. Let's see what happens in the coming days. Also, the Polish Defense Ministry announced an extremely high probability of a war with Polish participation. Poland's Ministry of National Defense estimates the likelihood of a war involving the country's armed forces as extremely high, Polish Deputy Defense Minister Marcin Okipa said. In addition, he added that he is already preparing for such a scenario, because the probability is quite large, as well as the confrontation between China and the United States. He also stressed that today Warsaw's foreign and defense policy should become as global as possible and focus on strengthening relations with its allies. Elon Musk's Starlink has increased tariffs for its customers in Ukraine. The internet provider Starlink of American entrepreneur Elon Musk has increased tariffs for Ukrainian customers from $60 to $75 per month. The new prices will be valid from December 29. This fact drew the attention of the Ukrainian media. Also, users who published a letter sent to them from Starlink on social networks were outraged by the price increase. The monthly cost of the Starlink service will increase from $60 to $75. The new price will be applied to your subscription from December 29, 2022, the text of the message says. Users who now no longer want to use this service have been told that they can unsubscribe at any time. That's it. Thanks for watching. Subscribe. Put likes. See you.